This week on Chateau Capers, the Joists are being eaten out of house and home. There's cause for dancing, a bit of relaxation at our favourite jazz festival, pool news, and a beautiful sunset. And once I take all these out, I'll take this off, take these out, then I can shove it into place, and then that's pretty much...
That's the bathroom.
That's the bathroom. Can you hear any squeaking?
No squeaking.
No squeaking. No squeaking.
Amazing.
Socks and sandals, but no squeaking. Okay.
Right.
I'll carry on. You can go and have your breakfast.
Thank you.
I say breakfast, but since it's after 12, it is
brunch.
Brunch. Or should be lunch. Knowing that I just needed to remove the radiator and lift a few old floorboards before the first section of subfloor was going down spurred me on. The sooner the shower room floor is down, the sooner I can start first fixing the plumbing. Once everything was out of the way, I vacuumed all the debris and dirt to inspect the condition of the wood. That was when I found this. The joist didn't actually reach the beam anymore. Joy. There was nothing to be done but remove and replace, and I thought this particular job was going to be quick. I guess that's all worked its way out of the wall. It's the original sort of clay plaster or whatever it was. I'm not exactly sure. Which has been crumbling out of the wall since they put in the central heating, which are these pipework. Well, this conduit has pipe in it, the blue and red pipe. And a clue to the place's past is here. Let me see if I can lean over. That looks like an old lathe, rotten out. So the old ceiling, perhaps, lathe and plaster, which means that main beam was once on display, which it almost certainly was, but that's sort of proof showing that the old lathe and plaster ceiling was right up by these old joists, or the joists that were there before these ones though. This joist, which is now too short because of the woodworm damage to the beam, is further evidence of the old ceiling that used to be beneath this floor, the lathe and plaster. And, well, yes, just interesting to see bits of the history of this place as it once was. And, well, now I've got my new beam in place. I've just got to level it up. That's the new beam in and down, finally. This was a job that was meant to be finished this morning. I was meant to be doing other things all afternoon, but it's now nearly 5 o'clock or thereabouts. And for one reason or another, mainly problems at this end and this joist, it's taken all day. But this will soon be a bathroom. It might even be a shower room. Might even be a shower room before I even put the floorboards back down in here. But we're getting somewhere. I'm permanently exhausted. Still, I've got work to do. Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau de Pican. Today I'm talking about this large ginger jar. I think you'd have to have a lot of ginger to fill this jar, but yeah, I believe that's what it is. It has a lid. It has this very cute little character on top, and I think he's called a foo dog. They vary a little bit in how they're depicted, but I think that's the closest, as far as I know, of what he is. And a foo dog isn't actually a dog, he's a lion. He's kind of like he looks like a cross between a dragon and a lion, but he's It's called a foo dog. He's waving, which is a bit unusual. I haven't been able to find a little figure on top of a pot with one waving. But anyway, there he is. And in terms of what we can learn about the age of the piece, if we look underneath, there is a mark under there. And when Google Translate does its magic, it says that this translates as made in the Xianlong period of the Qing dynasty. And the Xianlong period was in the 18th century. Xianlong was an emperor who was passionate about the arts. He himself was a poet, he loved calligraphy, and he did a lot to safeguard and reinvigorate Chinese cultural things, Chinese art, Chinese pottery, no doubt. So if that's true, and obviously that's what the mark says, but who put the mark on and when did they put it on and why did they put it on is a little bit interesting. But let's assume that's correct. And this is really a lovely old piece. It's in perfect condition as far as I can tell. Again, I don't know anything about how to spot forgeries, but it is slightly irregular in shape, so you can sort of run your finger around the edge and it isn't a perfect circle. I could imagine it was handmade. I could imagine that it had been handmade. It doesn't have any, obvious sort of telltale giveaway signs of mass production from the very limited knowledge that I have. So this could be a really old piece.
We discovered that the woodworm damage had spread to the adjacent room on the landing that was called the confessional by the previous owners. Sadly, this meant I needed to pull up more floorboards. I recorded this spoken update in time-lapse. Silly Rory.
I've taken up over half of the floorboards in this little room that we call a confessional. And as a reminder, this wasn't meant to be like this at all. The plan was we were just going to put a shower room in here, very small shower room, but we're just going to do that, not take up all the floorboards. As it happens, I've had to take up the floorboards. I'm going to have to take up the floorboards where I'm sitting as well, but from here to the edge of the room, that's all open. And I keep vacuuming and cleaning and then finding more damaged wood, making a mess, vacuuming. I sprayed it all last night, but yeah, I'm going to have to do that again and again. And we'll see what happens. I just hope that we can get on top of this woodworm. And these floorboards have to come up because I've no idea what I'm going to find under them, whether it's as bad as this, whether it stops here, I'd be very lucky. I just don't want it to go into the corridor because that would be an absolute nightmare. This wasn't a job that needed doing. This was just meant to be a room, apart from the horrible wallpaper, ready to go. Oh, what a start to the week.
It was heartbreaking having to cut through old oak floorboards, but if we can keep it within the confessional room, it won't be so bad as we can lay a tiled floor in what will become a shower room.
Well, that joist is definitely compromised as well. Bugger.
I kept lifting floorboards until I reached the end of the damaged joists. With the discovery of this extra woodworm, we really needed something to cheer us up.
In the evening, we went to nearby Marciac, where the jazz festival was in full swing. From street performers playing to small crowds, to dinner accompanied by live jazz, every vista had its enticing rhythm and mood. The atmosphere of the festival is easygoing and vibrant, music blending with laughter, conversation and warm summer air. It's a place to relax and simply enjoy the moment.
At the other end of the creaky bedroom, the news was a little better.
It's floor that doesn't squeak. It's floor that doesn't squeak.
With all the new joists down, I was ready to ply my way to a newly laid subfloor. It wasn't all plain sailing though, as the walls don't meet at perfect 90-degree angles, because of course they don't. This meant that I'd need to reshape the first sheet of ply so that the rest of them can lay square. Once done, I then had to chop the end off the ply sheet to line it up with the nearest joist. This was then repeated with the second and third sheets before screwing them all down.
That's 3 boards down, so you can technically walk from one door to the other without having to stand on the joists. Well, it's still a little precarious. But that's 3 down, that's 3 permanently down, providing nothing else goes wrong. They're all screwed into place, they're all matched up, so that's just amazing. That's all I can do today because, well, I've run out of plywood. We only bought 3 because these ones were a particularly expensive version. They had other ones, cheaper ones, which are the ones we want, but they weren't in stock. So these are probably what we'd call in the UK marine ply. And whilst yes, it's better, I'm not planning on this being a damp environment, so I shouldn't actually need it.
The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
The closest to this that I've found for sale was being sold in the US, and they were asking $550 for it. I mean, yeah, it seemed like a pretty good match. Similar colour, pattern and so on. And they said it had been imported into the US in the 1980s and was a Qing dynasty piece. So yeah, it's that kind of money, which is wonderful. Once again, I very much doubt we're going to sell it, unless it turns out it's worth 5 or 10 times that. But yeah, it's really rather attractive, especially if you like yellow. And obviously, the previous owners loved yellow.
It's now less than a week until the concrete is poured into the walls of the pool, and I needed to seal up the gaps using the sheets of corrugated plastic provided for the job. I just needed to put in 2 screws at the top, and the plastic will stop the concrete oozing out. I would soon discover that driving in the screws from the outside in would be much easier and much neater. The pool steps was a job I'd been avoiding. Each step needed an aluminium edging strip. The problem was that we'd been supplied with 2 long strips which I had to cut down to size, each with a neat 45-degree angle. It was a little tedious, but finishing the angle grinding was a good feeling. And finally hammering the precisely measured and cut edges into place without making any mistakes at all was an even better feeling.
Just gonna sit on the steps of my pool. It's a huge relief to get these on. I've been dreading this because they weren't pre-cut, so I've had to do all the angles and chop them myself, and I wasn't looking forward to it. It wasn't a lot of fun to do, but I've got it right. That's the most important thing. And they're in, and they're done. So it's a big relief. We're so close to being ready for the concrete. And that'll just be a joy when the concrete's in and we're fully finished concreting. Oh, well, it'll be as good as a pool by then. And then it'll just be putting the line in. Once the line is in, we can fill it. And then I've got all the plumbing to do, but we can still fill it. Amazing.
My job is to arrange some of the iron bits, so the reinforcing iron, and secure it so that it's giving as much cover in the concrete as possible, so it's central and evenly spaced. This one wants to wobble about. Just try and persuade it to stay in one place. With the pool prep complete, we took delivery of a few tons of cement and ballast, We have to mix over a tonne of concrete and pour it into the walls to ensure they're fixed before the cement lorry arrives and pours in the remainder.
It was our first time mixing and pouring concrete, so we made sure we were perfectly ready. Here are our top tips for working with concrete. First step, slightly overfill your wheelbarrow. This ensures you slop some on the floor as you lift the handles. Second, make sure your wheel is slightly wobbly. This ensures the barrow will head in an unexpected direction. Third, pile up gravel into mounds so that the barrow can bump into them. This ensures frustration in the barrow driver. Fourth, make sure the barrow wheel can't easily get onto the pouring ramp. This ensures a little more sloppage. If you get all of these things right, the rest should be a breeze.
Rory did a great job mixing the concrete and pouring it into the wall cavity at strategic locations. My job was to move a cardboard sheet to catch stray stones bouncing into the pool and to wipe the inside of the walls if any splashes occurred. This weekend, we got to do our river walk with company. Our lovely friends James and Corinne were visiting with their handsome dog Falco.
And I got to live out my fantasy of having my own dire wolf. Shame about the terrible shorts.
Whilst it was a flying visit, as Corinne will be our celebrant, we had exciting wedding plans to discuss. In the evening, we took them to one of our favourite vantage points to watch the sunset.
And since today is my birthday, I think it's about time for a glass of shampoo. See you next time.